A very good morning, all of you. Today we are back with a new session and new topic. I hope you all are fine. Okay. So whenever there is a question, how are you? Please say that I am rocking, I am doing very well. Okay. Don't say so. So if you ask me the same question, I would say that yes, I am rocking, I am fine, doing very well. So with that spirit, let us start with today's class. Dear students, we have last class, just let me brush you up that last class we were discussing about elasticity of demand. If you remember, see we were discussing on topic, very important topic, that is elasticity of demand. Okay, I told you what is elasticity. If you remember, elasticity is nothing but a sensitiveness of responsiveness where we are trying to study the relationship between price and the relationship of demand, like at different rates or at different prices of the commodities, what is the demand of the commodities? That is one relationship. Similarly, we will be discussing about what will be the income. Is income a part of the elasticity of demand? Like when income increases, what happens to the demand? When income decreases, what happens to the demand? So these things we'll be discussing in elasticity of demand. And last class I have told you that elasticity is a particular phenomena or a concept where we are trying to understand the responsiveness or the sensitiveness of this demand. And we are trying to understand the nature of demand, keeping in view the income of a person, keeping in view the price of the commodities, and keeping in view the price of the substitutes and complementary goods. So this is what we are talking about, elasticity of demand. So elasticity of demand basically tells us or gives us an idea regarding how does the market behave, or what is the response of demand when the income is increased or decreased, when the price of the commodities increased or decreased. So actually we are trying to discuss that part. So if you remember last class I had told you about we were discussing about the different types of elasticity. I've already told you that elasticity of demand can be discussed under different headings or topics. Now coming to that part, I told you we have 5 different kinds of elasticity, like perfect, okay, perfect elasticity. Just for your understanding, I am writing again. Then we have perfect inelastic, okay, inelastic. Then we have relative, okay, relative elastic. Then we have relative inelastic, okay, and last one is unitary elastic. So these are the 5 different types of elasticity of demand which we will be discussing. Okay, so as I told you, elasticity of demand clearly explains you about the relationship, the fundamental phenomena where we are trying to understand that how demand behaves when the factors like income, price or other factors changes. So that only we are going to discuss under this 5 headings, that is perfect elasticity, perfect inelastic, then relative elastic, relative inelastic and unitary inelastic. So last class what we have done is, last class we have tried to understand what is elasticity of demand, where we have tried to discuss what is perfect elastic demand, what is perfect inelastic demand, what is relative elastic demand, what is relative inelastic demand and unitary elastic demand. Now under perfect elastic demand, here it seems, I'll just tell you, the first one is your demand. Okay, we are going to study here 3 things. One is the demand part, one is the income, okay, and the last one is cross demand. So elasticity of demand we have already completed last class, but let me just tell you that in elasticity of demand we have studied that First is your perfect elastic. What happens here? The price is constant. Perfect elastic means price is constant. So when price is constant, there may be an increase or there may be a decrease in the demand of the commodity. Similarly, in perfect inelastic is when price is changed, what happens? This is price, okay? When price is changed, what happens? There is a increase. So first factor is the price. When price is changed, there is no change in the demand. That means even there is a fluctuation in change in price, but the demand does not changes. And third one is a relative elastic demand, where we have tried to understand the relative elastic demand, where we have tried to understand that. For example, I had given you the example of luxury goods. Luxury goods like your car, gold, buildings, flats. So these are luxury goods. So what happens here in case of luxury goods? If there is a slight change in the price, if suppose the prices of gold is now 40,000 rupees for 11 grams. Suppose all of a sudden the price of gold comes to 38 or 34. So a slight change in the price of the luxury goods brings a enormous or sizable change in the demand. Then comes a relative inelastic. Relative inelastic we have discussed in case of necessary goods. Necessary goods is your day-to-day goods which we are using here. What happens? A mere change in the price, okay, like a small change in the price makes only little difference in the demand. Why? Because those are necessary goods. So even if there is a fluctuation in the price, but the demand may not, because necessary goods we'll buy that much. Like for example, suppose salt. Salt is a necessary item, but suppose the cost of salt decreases by ₹10, I am not going to buy 10 packets of salt in a month. I will buy only 1 or 2 packets which I am regularly consuming. So that happens in case of necessary. The last one is your unitary elastic. What happens? Here the price and demand means here the change in price and demand remains the same. Remains the same means if price increases, demand decreases. If price decreases, demand increases. This is what we have completed last class. Today we will discuss about the income and the cross demand. Now coming to the income elasticity. Income elasticity can be discussed again under these 5 headings: perfect elastic, perfect inelastic, relative elastic, relative inelastic, and unitary. Now what happened in income elastic or income perfect elastic? What happens here? Also income is constant, demand may increase or decrease. Income, okay, second is income, first is your perfect elastic. Perfect elastic, what happens? Income is constant, income constant, okay. Now what happens? Demand may increase or decrease, increase or decrease. I get my point. So what is perfect elastic? Perfect elastic is again income is constant, demand may increase or decrease. Then come to perfect inelastic. Perfect inelastic. Now under the concept of perfect inelastic, okay, what happens here is, here income is changed but there is no change in the demand. Okay, I'll just give you an example here. Income is changed, a small change in income, but there is no change in demand. No change in demand. Is it clear? Are you getting my point? And the third one is your relative elastic, where slight change in income makes difference in the change in, means a slight change in the income. Suppose my income say is monthly my income is 10,000 rupees right now. So all of a sudden my income raises from 10 to 12,000 or 13,000, a small change. So even a small change in the income brings a sizable change in the demand. That is your number 3. Okay, this is your perfect inelastic. Okay, where perfect inelastic Here, slight change in income, slight change in income brings change in demand. Is it clear? Then come to your last one. Your perfect elastic. Now see, perfect elastic demand, what we are trying to understand is, when we are considering income as a factor, now what happens here, whenever in perfect elastic, what happens, whenever there is a slight change in the income, there is a sizable change in the demand. But what happens in perfect inelastic, more change in income, but there is less change in demand. Okay, more change in income, but less change in demand. Is it clear? Now let us go through it again. Now the first, now income. When we are taking income as a dependent or as a factor, or income as a one of the important criteria to study the elasticity of demand. See, first criteria was our price, second is income, third is cross demand. Now when we have studied the price part, I have already given an example. Now income. Now income also we have five different top headings, that is perfect elasticity, perfect inelastic, relative elastic, relative inelastic and unitary. Now what happens in perfect elastic? Perfect elastic says that the income is remaining constant and demand may increase or decrease. So there is not much, we cannot say whether the income, the demand may increase or decrease, depends upon the use of the type of commodity. Suppose it is a question of necessary commodities may increase. If it is a question of luxury, that it may decrease. Then come to second one is your perfect inelastic. Perfect inelastic says that income is changed, okay, but there is a very slight change in the demand. Slight change, not much. Third is little change in income, but more change in the demand. And number 4 is more change in income but less change in demand. And the last one is unitary. Unitary elastic says that the range or the change in income and change in demand is the same. Now how? Suppose the income increases, demand increases, income decreases, demand decreases. Suppose my income raises from 50,000 to 80,000, my demand may increase. Suppose the income decreases from 10,000 to 5,000, then the demand will decrease. So this is how the elasticity of demand can be understood, keeping in view your price as a factor and income as a factor. Is it clear? Now let us move to the last third part. We just remember that how it behaves, like in case of price how it behaves, and in case of income how it behaves. Same thing operates, but just you have to remember what is perfect elastic, what is perfect inelastic, what is relative elastic, what is relative inelastic, and last is your unitary, okay, where it is same. Now come to cross elasticity of demand. Okay, cross elasticity of demand. Okay. Now cross elasticity of demand shows the proportionate change in demand of one commodity and proportionate change in the price of the commodity. Now, proportionate change in the demand. Now just let us understand what is this. It says proportionate change. Proportionate change in the price of the commodity. Price of the commodity. Okay, proportionate change in the price of the commodity and proportionate change in the price of one commodity and proportionate change in price of another commodity. Okay, so cross elasticity of demand explains the relationship between the proportionate change in the price of one commodity and the proportionate change in the price of another commodity. That means how much change in the price of one commodity leads to change in the price of another commodity. Okay, now I'll give you one example. Say for example, suppose we take into consideration the substitute commodity, substitute goods. Substitute goods can be tea and coffee. We have already discussed tea or coffee. Now, suppose there is a change in tea, suppose the price of tea changes. Okay, what happens? There is a subsequent decrease in the price, like tea prices all of a sudden they raise, like from 40 rupees to 60 rupees for example, but the coffee price remains as such. So what happens? We see that the proportionate change in the price of one commodity and the proportionate change in the price of another commodity. So what happens whenever there is a proportionate change in the prices of similar commodities or in the change in the prices of different commodities, then it is known as the cross elasticity of demand. Why? Because for example, in case of substitute goods, we have already understood or we have already discussed that whenever the price of the substitute goods falls down, then the demand for other good increase. Right? I am telling you, suppose you are a regular user of tea, you are consuming tea. So, but all of a sudden the price of tea increases. So what happens? We now switch on to consume coffee. Coffee is a substitute product of tea. So we switch on to coffee and use coffee. So what happens? Whenever there is a change in the price of substitute good, the demand of the other good changes. Similarly, if we take the example of complementary goods like petrol is complementary of car or cement is complementary of sand or rod. So complementary goods means those goods which are used in one or two items or goods are taken together to satisfy one want. That is your complementary goods. So what happens? Suppose the prices of petrol all of a sudden falls down or the prices of diesel falls down. Okay, suppose right now it is rupees 80, it falls to rupees 60. So what happens? The demand of car increases. Why? Because car and petrol are complementary product. So whenever there is a change in price of one particular commodity, in case of complementary goods, there is a fall in the price, then the demand for the other product or other commodity increases. These things we have already discussed, and under cross elasticity of demand, we are trying to understand what is the proportionate change in the price of one commodity and the proportionate change in the price of another commodity. Is it clear? So with this we finish here concept of elasticity of demand, where we have tried to understood the behavior or the responsiveness of price to demand or income to demand. Actually, we in elasticity of demand we have tried to understood that what happens when or how demand behaves when price is constant, how demand behaves when the price is slightly changed or the income is slightly changed, or what happens to the demand when there is an enormous or whenever there is a big change in the price or income, and what is the relationship. So that we have actually tried to understood, and we have also discussed, I have also told you that what happens in case of necessary goods and what happens in case of luxury goods. Please remember that necessary, whenever there is a change in the price of necessary goods, there may not be much difference in the demand, because we are talking about necessary goods which are used in fixed quantities. We cannot increase the quantity just because the price like sugar. We will add 1 spoon of sugar to when we are taking tea or when I am taking tea. But सपोज कल शुगर का प्राइस कम हो जाता है, उसका मतलब ये नहीं कि 1 चम्मच के बदले में आई विल ऐड 3 or 4 spoons of sugar. No, it will not be. Okay, so this is how we are talking about necessary goods. But coming to luxury goods, like I told you, luxury, like suppose the land, price of land, or price of gold. Suppose there is a slight change, okay, and the prices starts falling or there is a little bit change in the price, like suppose आप देख लीजिए सोने का दाम अभी मार्केट में 40,000 है, सपोज 40,000 के बजाय अभी 38,000 भी हो गया तो 2,000 तो कम हुआ ना, तो 2,000 कम is a motivation for the people to buy. So there will be a change in the demand, a sizable change in the demand you can see. Why? Because we are talking here about the luxury goods. So there is a difference in behavior in case of luxury goods and in case of your necessary commodities or necessary goods. So that thing you have to bear in your mind. Is it clear? Now next we will be discussing today another important topic, that is how to measure elasticity of demand. So we are not going very deep, but just for your information we will discuss some of the methods to measure elasticity of demand. Is it clear? So we are going to discuss today what are some of the very common or important methods to measure the elasticity of demand. We have 4 methods: percentage method, total outlay method, point method and arc method. So all these methods are used to measure elasticity. Now what are the methods? First one is your percentage method. Okay, percentage method. Then we have total outlay method, then third we have point method, then fourth we have arc method. Now what are these methods? These methods actually help us to measure the elasticity of demand, which we were talking from the last 1 or 2 classes. Please remember in mind that elasticity of demand is the responsiveness or is the sensitiveness or it is the behavior or relationship that we are trying to understand, keeping in view the price as a factor or the income as a factor and how changes are brought in the demand. So this is what we have discussed in elasticity of demand, and I have told you elasticity of demand is of 5 types. What? Perfect elastic, perfect inelastic, relative elastic, relative inelastic and unitary elastic. So we have already discussed that what happens in case of income, what happens in the case of price and what happens in cross elasticity of demand. So now we are going to discuss some of the methods. Just I will brief you of how these methods actually work. See, elasticity of demand can be measured. We can know that what is the sensitiveness or what is the responsiveness, or we can study what is the change brought about when the prices fall or when there is increase, or whenever the income falls or there is an increase, how much change has been brought in the demand. So this thing we can understand, or the elasticity of demand can be understood under 4 different methods. That is a percentage method, total outlay method, point method and arc method. Now what is percentage method? Now percentage method is a very easy method. So let us first come to the percentage method. Now here we are trying to percentage method, we put a formula here, that is proportionate change in demand by, see we are just using a formula, proportional change in demand by proportionate change in price. Okay, we write as EP is equal to proportionate change in demand by proportionate change in price. Is it clear? So using this formula of percentage EP, okay, elasticity through percentage method, or determining elasticity of demand through percentage method, we can say that EP is equal to proportionate change in demand by proportionate change in price. Okay, change in price. Change in demand and change in price. Are you getting my point? So this is a very simple formula, a percentage formula, which we can use to understand. Let us write it more clearly. proportionate change in demand, okay, by proportionate change in price. Okay, so EP is equal to proportion. Please remember, EP is equal to proportionate change in demand by proportionate change in price. So using this percentage formula, you can measure the elasticity of demand. It's a very simple formula. Then next comes to the outlay, total outlay method. Now second is your total outlay method. Total outlay method. Okay. So what was the first formula? First formula, percentage method, where EP is equal to proportionate change in demand by proportionate change in price. Now outlay method discusses the relationship between price and what is the total elasticity. So outlay method, we understand the relationship between price and total elasticity. Okay, so what we are trying to determine here, in total, see, in first method was a percentage method, where we have tried to understand that what is the proportionate change in demand by proportionate change in price. But in the second method, there is outlay method, we are trying to discuss the relationship between price and the total elasticity. Now we can put this in a form of a table, where we can put here price. This is your price factor, then is your demand, and then is your total outlay. Total outlay. Okay. This table we can use. Like suppose price is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Now what happens in demand? We have studied. What is the concept we have studied? Then whenever there is a decrease in price, demand will increase. So suppose your demand is 50, here again 60, 70, 80, 90, and it goes on. Now so you see, when the price falls, the demand increases. Okay, this is a fundamental which we have already discussed. So here also we see, then in total outlay method, we are trying to discuss the relationship between price and total elasticity. So here price factor I have put in one column, this is your demand column, this is total outlay. Now you see, when price is 10, the demand is 50, when price is 90, demand is 60, when it is 8, it is 70, when it is 7, it is 80, when it is 6, it is 90. Now what happens to total outlay? Total outlay is what is the total elasticity. Total elasticity will fluctuate. Like for example, this may be 360, then 320, 400, okay, then 360. Okay, now what happens here is, in total outlay we are calculating the relationship between the what? Between the price and the total elasticity. Okay, so just we have to multiply. Now how we'll multiply? Just that is, this is 500, okay, 540, just you multiply and you put the figure over here, you will get the total outlay. Is it clear? So in total outlay method, we are discussing about the relationship between the price and the total elasticity. This is another method. Now I hope it is clear. See, this method is very easy. Total outlay method, we discuss the relationship between price and total elasticity, where one column we have put the price, another column demand and total outlay. Now when price is 10, it is 50, so we have multiplied 500. When price is 9, it is 60, we multiply, it is 540. So similarly you multiply and you'll get the total outlay method, and you know the elasticity. You can know from here the elasticity. Okay. Then come to the next method, that is point method. Now what is point method? Number 3 is your point method. Okay, now what is point method? Point method is here where we are trying to measure the elasticity using the upper segment and lower segment. Like we are taking, we can plot in a graph. Okay, this is your demand, this is your price. Okay. So what happens in point method? We are going to identify the point where the elasticity demand is very high. Like we say that lower upper segment. What is the upper segment? By your lower segment. Okay. Or EP is, just I'm sorry, EP is your, just reverse it. We can write again, EP is equal to lower segment by your upper segment. Okay. So in this graph we are going to point here, we are going to put the points here to understand the elasticity. This is the point method. Point method is when we are trying to assess or when we are going to study the elasticity of demand, taking price in the your y-axis, demand in the x-axis, and we are trying to study the relationship, and EP stands for lower segment by your upper segment. Is it clear? So this is point method. So exactly what we are doing, we are pointing or we are trying to locate the elasticity of demand in a particular graph. Then comes to your arc method. Last method is your arc method. Now arc method is also a common method to determine or to study the elasticity of demand. It is used when the, now why we are using arc method? It is used when the changes in price or demand is very less and cannot be accurately known. So what happens here is we cannot use the point method, we cannot use the percentage method, or when we cannot use the your outlay method. So here we use the arc method. So arc method is used when the changes are very small, like in your prices, in the prices or the demand. Okay. So when there is a very small change in the price or demand, then only we are using this arc method to understand or to measure the elasticity of demand. Is it clear? So we have 4 different methods. Just keep in your mind, elasticity of demand determines or study the relationship of demand, or we are studying the demand with respect to income, price, and we have also come across the method of cross elasticity of demand. And in order to measure those elasticity of demand, we have 4 very common methods: your percentage method, total outlay method, point method, and arc method. Arc method is very less in use because we are using arc method when there are changes very negligible, or when is very slight changes, small changes in the price compared to demand, a small change in the demand. So what happens, we cannot use any other method, but we are using arc as a method to determine or to understand the elasticity of demand. Is it clear? Now let us come to the last part of this topic. Okay, so that today we can wind up the elasticity part, because we are running short of time and we need to complete your course also on time. So we'll फटाफट हम लोग आज क्या डिस्कस करते हैं, इंपॉर्टेंस. व्हाट इज द इंपॉर्टेंस? नाउ सी फ्रॉम लास्ट 2 classes I am talking about elasticity of demand. Now let us discuss what is this importance of elasticity of demand. Why actually or in what way it is going to help us? What is the importance of elasticity of demand? I hope that by now you are well aware of what is elasticity of demand. Now the concept or the phenomena of elasticity of demand is quite simple, but it may sound, maybe in the first class you may think it is quite complex, but after understanding the phenomena concept you may think that it is very easy. And we are really trying to understand the behavior of market, how price influences demand, or how income influences demand. So these things we have already covered. Now let us just very quickly let us assume, or let us find out that how this elasticity of demand is going to help. The first most important thing is it helps in taking business decision. Okay, business decisions can be taken with the help of the concept of elasticity of demand. Like how business decision, see when in the market, when you know the what is the behavior in the elasticity of demand, like what happens when the product is more elastic, okay, then if the product is most elastic, how the prices will be fixed, okay, if the product is more elastic, then prices will be fixed very low. So what happens, no, the business people or the people who are under the process of selling and buying goods, for them it helps a lot because they are able to fix the price, because the business people means they are profit oriented. So once they know what is the elasticity of demand, so for example, when the demand is very less, if the demand is less, you cannot increase the price, okay, you will be lost. But suppose the demand is very high, they can fix the price accurately. So these things can be known with the help of elasticity of demand. Then it is also helpful for a monopolist. Now what is a monopolist? Monopolist is a person who is ruling the market, or he is dominating the market. So for him also it is very helpful because he is able to fix the prices of the product. He fixes higher price in the market where elasticity of demand is less. Okay, if elasticity of demand is less, he can fix a higher price. So those kind of decisions can be taken by a monopolist, provided he has the knowledge of elasticity of demand. Then third is, it helps to determine the price, determination of price factor. As I told you, by understanding the elasticity of demand helps to fix the price, different factors, because you know what are the different factors of production, you know the behavior that is taking place in the market. So depending on that, you can fix the accurate or good prices for the commodities. So elasticity of demand also helps in determination of the price factor. Then it is also helpful for the government. How it is helpful for the government? To the government, now what happens, it helps the government to decide what particular industry should be declared as public utility, what particular industry should be declared as private sectors, or what particular industry should be segregated as private or public sectors. So those kind of important decisions are also taken with the help of the elasticity of demand. And last is route for international trade. This elasticity of demand is also a route for international trade. Route for international trade. Okay. Route for international trade, like what do you mean by route for international trade is, like we are talking about export import. So what products could be traded in, what products to be exported, or what should be the price of the product, what should be the nature, like what products could be exported so that there will be lot of benefit, and what products should be imported so that we don't have to pay much. So these kind of decisions are taken with the help of the concept of elasticity of demand. So the phenomena of the concept of elasticity of demand is quite helpful not only to the businessman but to a person who understands the market, or who is establishing his business in the market, or who is into selling and buying, especially business people, monopolists. Then even the government is able to understand how the different sectors operate and how to segregate का मीनिंग है सेपरेट. जैसे हम लोग किस इंडस्ट्री को पब्लिक यूटिलिटी इंडस्ट्री बोल सकते हैं, किस इंडस्ट्री को हम लोग प्राइवेट बोल सकते हैं. तो ये सब डिसीजन हम लोग ले सकते हैं अगर हम लोग को आइडिया है कि इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड क्या है. So elasticity of the demand plays a very vital role in the entire economics and in the entire theory of understanding the market situation. Okay. Now then we have the last part. I hope it's clear. So importance of elasticity of demand is to the business to take business decision, for the monopolist to determine the price factors, to the government, and it is a route to international trade. Okay. Then what are the determinants of elastic demand? Determinants of elastic demand. Okay, this is the last part. What are the determinants of elasticity? The determinants are, we can discuss one by one. First is your nature of commodity. This is very important. One of the most important determinant factors is in the determinants of elastic demand is what is the nature of commodity. Whether we, as I told you, whether we are talking about the necessary commodities or whether we are talking about the luxury. Because in case of necessary commodities, the behavior will be different. As I told you, if there is an increase or decrease, suppose there is a decrease in price, we are not going to buy much because the demand will not be much affected in case of necessary goods. But in case of luxury goods, I have told you that even if there is a slight change in the price, there will be a sizable change in the demand, because that makes a difference. So what kind of goods we are talking about, whether it is necessary goods or whether we are talking about luxury goods, it is a important determinant of demand, your elasticity of demand, necessary goods or luxury. Okay, that is first part. Second is your whether the substitutes are available, availability of substitutes. Okay, now availability of substitutes means, suppose substitutes are easily available, then that will make a difference in the demand. But if substitutes are not available, suppose I am not getting a substitute for a particular product, then what will happen? The demand for that particular product may increase in the market. So if the demand increases, the price will what happen? Price is also going to increase. They are going to fix a price at a higher. Suppose, say for example, nowadays you see that we are undergoing a epidemic phase where we feel that the use of sanitizers, use of soap has increased. So if tomorrow the price of sanitizer increases, the demand will automatically increase because that is necessary for us. So because we don't have a substitute. Suppose we have a substitute now see, we have a substitute, like if we don't have a sanitizer, we can use a soap. So that is a substitute. But suppose we don't have substitutes of goods, then that will make a difference. So the second important determinant is the availability of substitutes. Third is what is the variety of uses, like where we are going to use the product. Variety of uses. Okay, variety of uses means more use. Suppose the product is more in use, is good in use, then it is more elastic. But products which are less in use and are not giving that much of use, then it is less elastic. So depends what is the variety of the product, variety of use of the product. For example, a single particular commodity, if it is used more, then elasticity is more, and vice versa. Okay, then comes to possibility of postponement of use. Now see, what is possible postponement of use or consumption is, like certain products we can, if we are not getting, okay, suppose it is not available in the market or we are not getting the products, we can postpone. Suppose for example, I am very fond of taking coffee, but suppose coffee is not available in the market, I can postpone my consumption of coffee to some few more days, like I can manage with tea. But suppose I am habituated to take a particular medicine. Suppose say for example, I am suffering from thyroid and I am using a particular medicine for thyroid. So I cannot postpone the use of the thyroid medicine because that is essential for my health. It is used as a medicine, not for any other purpose. But without coffee, I can manage for few days because I can postpone the use of consumption of coffee. But at the same time, I cannot postpone the use of or taking my medicines regularly. So another important factor is postponement of the consumption of a particular good. So we have to see what is the nature of good. Like I told you, if coffee is not available, I can manage with tea for some more days, but I cannot manage without my medicine which I am habituated of taking daily, and it is on my health grounds. Is it clear? Then the last is your desirable goods. Desirable goods. Okay, desirable goods means Like certain desirable goods means certain goods which we desire to have or we want to use. Okay. Like it depends upon your preferences and taste. So what happens, these desirable goods, that demand will be changing. A desirable goods is, suppose your preferences increase, the demand will increase, but if your preferences are not that much, then the demand may not increase. So these are the 5 important factors which are the important factors or important determinants of elasticity of demand, where nature of commodity plays a very important role. That is, whether you are talking about the necessary commodities or luxury. Then what is the availability of substitute? Whether substitutes are available, then the demand is okay. But if substitutes are not available, then there will be difference in the demand. Then variety of uses means to what extent you are using the product. If the product is more in use or good in use, then it will be more elastic. And next is the possibility of postponement. As I told you, certain products we can postpone its consumption, but there are certain products like drugs, your medicines, or the things we are taking daily basis, those things we cannot postpone for consumption. So there the elasticity may differ. And the last one is your desirable goods. Desirable goods we can just have an option, like if I can use that product, if I'm getting the desirable products or my taste and preferences are matching, then and I'm desiring for some better products in the market, then the demand may increase. But if the desirable goods I don't want, because I'm not desiring for very costly goods, then the demand may change or fluctuate. So these are some of the important determinants of elasticity of demand. So with this we complete, students, your elasticity of demand part. I'll just tell you what we have discussed till date, or what we have discussed till now. Till now we have discussed what is the concept of elasticity of demand. Then we try to understand what are the types of elasticity of demand, taking income as a factor, price as a factor, then your cross elasticity. The next we try to discuss the measurement of elasticity of demand using 4 methods. What are the 4 methods? Percentage method, point method, arc method, total outlay method. Then next we have tried to discuss what are the determinants of demand and the use or the importance of elasticity of demand. The use of elasticity of demand is useful for a business person, useful for a monopolist who is dominating the market, useful for the government, useful for each and every individual who is trying to fix the price of the product or who is trying to understand the price of the product. The last we try to understand that what are the important determinants in the entire concept of elasticity of demand, and the important determinants are the what is the nature of the commodity, like whether we are talking about the luxury or necessary commodities, what is the availability of substitutes in the market, what is the variety or what is the maximum use of the product, if more then elasticity more. Then we discussed about this possibility of postponement of use, and the last one is desirable goods. So dear friends, with this we have finished your topic of elasticity of demand. I hope it is clear, okay, and I'll be little bit more elaborating in next class, but we are going to start with a new topic, that is theory of supply, because we cannot linger much, we have to complete the course on time, and I'm trying my best to make the topics very easy for you so that you will be understanding it with, and I'll try to give more examples for your better understanding. So next class be prepared to, we'll go for a new topic, that is theory of supply. As we have discussed the theory of demand, similarly we are going to discuss the theory of supply. So have a nice day, good time, thank you.